So right now, European shipping companies are burning an extra 340 million euros.
Which is, what, nearly $400 million?
Yeah, almost exactly $400 million.
Right.
And that is every single day,
Wow. Just staggering.
right? It's wild. Welcome to today's deep dive, by the way. Our mission today is figuring out if this escalating Persian Gulf War is, actually going to force the global shipping industry to finally ditch oil for alternative fuels.
Because that daily cost you just mentioned is entirely tied to the massive bottleneck happening at the Strait of Hormuz right now.
Exactly. We're pulling from some fantastic articles today from Splash 24/7 about energy security in the Strait, along with that wild financial data from the NGO Transport and Environment.
And, to understand why those costs are skyrocketing so violently, you really have to look at the physical geography of the market. Roughly 20% of the global oil trade flows right through the Strait of Hormuz.
20%. That's a massive chunk of global energy.
It really is. And because of the active conflict, the price of VLSFO, which is very low sulfur fuel oil, basically of the standard marine fuel, it more than doubled at key hubs in just 5 weeks.
Doubled in 5 weeks. That is just, it's like running the entire global economy on a legacy mainframe computer that only has one single point of failure.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
Like, if that one server goes down, the whole system just crashes. Freight rates spike, insurance premiums go through the roof, and vessels are forced into these huge detours.
Which makes you wonder what ship owners are actually doing about it.
Right. You'd think they'd just, I don't know, wait for a ceasefire to save costs.
Yeah.
But the data shows they're actually locking in long-term, highly complex bunker procurement right now.
Yeah, they're completely rethinking how they buy and store marine fuel. The industry advice right now, and this is echoing Gus Majed, a shipping group CEO, who calls this the largest oil supply disruption in history by volume. The advice is to treat this as a permanent structural shift, not just a temporary spike.
Wait, a permanent shift?
Yeah, exactly. Jack Jordan, an industry editor, points out that the physical peril in the strait means shipping basically faces a harsh reality. You either build maximum flexibility into your fuel supply chains right now, or you face crippling delays.
So, okay, if traditional fuel procurement is an absolute nightmare right now, this logically forces the question.
Yeah.
Is this the ultimate catalyst for a true green energy transition?
That is the big question.
But I'll be honest, I'm a bit skeptical.
Really? Why is that?
Well, there's this great point in one of the Splash 24/7 articles. They note that the whole war is wake-up call thesis has a pretty mixed historical record.
Ah, right, like the 1973 oil embargo?
Exactly. That embargo drove a genuine decade of investment in energy efficiency and alternative sources across the industrialized world. But then cheap oil returned in the mid-1980s, and the urgency just evaporated.
Yeah, it totally vanished.
So why wouldn't that exact same cycle just repeat itself here? Once the conflict cools down, won't they just go back to cheap oil?
It's a fair point, but the fundamental underlying economics are totally different this time. Over the last 5 years, the cost of renewable energy and electrolysis, using electricity to split water into hydrogen.
Right, for green hydrogen.
Exactly. Those costs have plummeted to levels we really couldn't have predicted a decade ago. It's not just reliant on government subsidies anymore. Private capital is heavily backing these technologies.
Which is huge, because green hydrogen isn't tied to geology, right? It isn't just like buried under one specific country's soil waiting to be extracted.
Yes, that's the key difference. Production of green hydrogen is tied to capital, renewables, and infrastructure. If shipping actually switches to a hydrogen-based system, production hubs can be set up anywhere there's sun, wind, and water.
So it changes the physical supply chain.
Entirely. It moves us from a few highly concentrated pipelines into this decentralized multi-continent web. And that shifts the energy transition from just being a climate imperative into a pure trade resilience strategy.
Oh, I see. So instead of 20% of global trade being held hostage by one choke point like Hormuz.
You dilute that systemic risk down to maybe 5%.
Wow. And this shift from a centralized mainframe to a decentralized cloud network, to keep using that analogy, it matters directly to you, the listener, because energy transition isn't just about emissions anymore. It's about global stability.
Exactly.
Because the price of marine fuel dictates the price of shipping, which basically dictates the price of literally everything you buy at the store.
Which, raises a pretty critical question going forward.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, if green energy decentralizes fuel production and moves global shipping away from oil choke points, Are we simply going to trade geographic bottlenecks like the Strait of Hormuz for entirely new vulnerabilities?
Oh, like vulnerabilities tied to the critical mineral supply chains.
Precisely. You need a massive amount of critical minerals to build all this new infrastructure. We might just be swapping one choke point for another.
So we might just be building a new mainframe with a completely different single point of failure. That is definitely something to chew on next time you check the price tag on, well, anything. Thanks for diving deep with us today.